Hang out with me in Riverside Park in New York City while I talk about how to be a successful full-time artist. My name is Bård Edlund, and I've been making a living as a creative person since 2012 without a corporate job, and I'm told that is enough to qualify me as an expert in the year 2024. So let's talk about it, and I think the key thing here is to redefine the terms. So let's start with the word successful. What does it mean to be a successful artist? It's not the same thing as being successful as a lawyer or as a real estate investor or a business consultant or a dentist. It's not this quantifiable metric. I mean, to some degree you can tie it to, how much money you make. But is that a measure of how good you are as an artist? Definitely not. So I think it's vital that you think about what success means for you and kind of define it for yourself. And I would advise you to, whatever you think success means, try to shrink it down a lot. What's the bare minimum that you can do that means you're successful? And for me, being a successful artist is the same thing as surviving as an artist. That's success. I have no goal beyond surviving while doing as much of what I love as possible and as little of what I don't love as possible. And that's the radical choice I'm making. That's how I'm defining success. So forget about awards, forget about public reputation or acknowledgement or social media followings or any of that stuff. Are you surviving while being an artist? Well, then you're doing amazing. And if you're not there yet, why set the bar higher than that? Don't overcomplicate it. I think that's what being a successful artist is. Basically, being a successful artist is being an artist. Now let's redefine full-time. I make a living as an artist, but part of that living is made through a recurring graphic design job I have that I've done for years now with the same client. I do some work for them every single week, and it's very, very, very unglamorous work. It's repetitive, it's not very interesting, it's dangerously close to being data entry. But I do that work happily and proudly because it is helping me be a full-time artist. It provides a financial platform for me to stand on that kind of is a buffer for all of the ups and downs that my other freelance gigs kind of present me with. And I also frame it as almost a meditative thing because it's really nice to have some work that isn't super taxing on my creative brain. It's a nice reset when I can take a step back from whatever animation I'm working on or illustration or graphic design project. I can take a step back from that stuff that's really, really taking everything out of me. And I can just kind of make some kind of really easy to measure progress on a project that is there's a certain satisfaction to that is actually helping me feel accomplished in my other work as well. And you feel like you're doing something that's helping somebody. You're doing something that's taking you from A to B to C. And that is kind of quantifiable and measurable in a way that maybe some of your longer term creative projects are not. There's something to that. It does something for me. And so if you think about stuff in that way, it helps you see yourself as a full-time artist. And I'm lucky that, my recurring work that is serving that purpose, it is at the end of the day a graphic design job. So it sort of quite obviously qualifies as being a part of making a full-time living as an artist. But I would give yourself permission to consider any kind of job that you have as part of your life as a full-time artist. So, for example, let's say you're a barista 3 days a week, in order to fund your creative pursuits, I think you're still a full-time artist. If you kind of, or I think it's healthy of you to think of yourself in that way. Because I'm willing to bet that while you're brewing those coffees for those customers, you are spending some amount of your time thinking about what's next in your creative practice. What are you going to do with that painting you're working on? How can you design that logo that you're thinking about, or whatever it is? And in a similar way to what I was saying about my recurring design job, there's also a kind of a necessary meditative component to having an outside job like that is actually feeding your artistic practice. You need time away from the drawing board in order to be ready to make marks. And your job as a barista can fulfill that purpose if you frame it that way in your head, right? So that all brings me to redefine the word artist. Because my contention is that being an artist is not a job as much as it is a way of life. It's a kind of a commitment to a way of life. And if you're committing to that way of life, then that's full time. You are who you are 24 hours a day, so that's full time. And to me, being an artist essentially means that you're living life a certain way that prioritizes some things over other things. And those priorities are a little unusual to most normal people. For me, a core part of this is to be less focused on financial gain and more focused on satisfying my creative needs. You know, you would make more money as an investment banker, but that would not be a good investment in who you are as a person. And another part of being an artist, in my view, is that you're someone who can luxuriate in observation. So if you look at this image here, for example, at the bottom left corner, there is, I think that's basically a blade of grass that's flickering in the light. It looks like it's just a glimmer of light, but it's really a blade of grass that's being manipulated by subtle wind. And that flickering light is kind of overlaid over this one player. And it looks kind of magical and beautiful. And because I'm an artist, I spend time, I allow myself the time to look at things like this and think about things like this. And maybe there's a way I can translate that weird light artifact that I'm seeing on that person into some kind of work of art, right? Some kind of... The most literal thing would be, I could paint a portrait of a person that is kind of affected by this kind of shimmering light. But there's a million other ways that I could take that observation and create something artistic from that, to be inspired by it, to draw on it. You know, a lot of creativity is about observing something in one place and then transposing it to another place and doing something new with that thing that you observed. And I think being an artist is about giving yourself the time to luxuriate in things like this. When we talk about being an artist, we often talk about the struggle of it. There's a romanticism to the idea of being a struggling artist. It's a lot about sacrifice. But I'm more interested in kind of the opposite of sacrifice. It's about the things you gain by making this commitment to being an artist, and a lot of that it's a lot about mindset. So if you are making that commitment, you're saying, forget about what society tells me I should be doing. I want to be an artist. If you're really serious about that and committed to that, then you are an artist. You are full-time already. Keep going.